Hey guys, KiwiSylveon, and welcome back to Seduce Me to the Demon War. In the last episode, whew, it got heated. We fucked Sam's demon style. And now we're going into a test. There's apparently two tests now waiting for us. This one with Sergeant that apparently weak demons die? And another one that this dragon apparently wants us to go through. So, let's go. Do it! I had to try. I had to. If this is going to help me, then I had to do my best. I looked to Sergeant once more. Whoa. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. I want to go back to this. Thank you. I didn't expect it to pop up now. Sergeant grinned a bit before gathering some dirt in his hand and tossing it over the bowl and incense. As the dirt collided into the bowl, a red flash sparked and burst from it, causing me to shut my eyes and block the visual impact. After a second, I opened my eyes again to see what had happened. A large red flame sat in the mouth of the bowl, dissolving the incense into it and leaving nothing but the licking tongues of the fire. It seemed to burn immensely, not showing any signs of dying.
Reach into the flame and touch the bottom of the bowl with 2 fingers.
I took a moment to absorb what he said. My thoughts instantly wanted to say no, but something told me it was something I could do without getting hurt. With a breath, I slowly lifted my hand and stretched it toward the fire, feeling the heat grow against my skin as the distance shortened. My fingertips barely caressed the flame before I almost violently pushed my hand forward. To my surprise, I felt no pain from the action, watching the fire dance around my skin, but only feeling its warmth. I let out a soft, shaky sigh before continuing forward to touch the bottom of the bowl with my fingers. I could barely feel it ooze-like texture around my nails and fingertips, but I kept focused on following Sergeant's instructions.
You're not going to go through the full test. As a human, you wouldn't survive. You'll be getting a small taste of it, enough to show me that you're strong enough to defend yourself.
And not understanding, Sergeant continued.
What you're about to taste is fucking disgusting, but you will not spit any of it out. Understand?
I nodded again.
Good. Now take your hand out of the flame.
I obeyed and watched my hand emerge from the flame with ease, covering my fingertips with a blood-colored liquid, slowly dribbling down my fingers onto my palm and knuckles. I stared at it, trying not to let my mind overthink what I was about to do.
When you're ready, put your fingers in your mouth and swallow that mixture.
My mind began to fight. What was I doing? This was getting really odd. However, as my thoughts tried to assemble reasons why this was wrong, my senses became overwhelmed. What? The air around me tightened, and suddenly the ground began to shift and rumble, almost like I was sitting on a waterbed. I felt my nerves dancing and wriggling beneath my skin, making me slightly nauseous. Was the smell getting to me? The only description I could coherently think of was that I felt like I was getting high. My mind was slowly numbing, and my body was rocking at the sensation coursing through it. I had to hurry. I instantly put my fingers into my mouth and quickly began to clean the concoction off of my fingers with my tongue. Sergeant was right. The taste was absolutely vomit-worthy. It was a mixture of ash and burnt mold. If I could imagine actually trying it, the taste was like eating a wad of aged cigarettes. However, I shut my eyes and barreled through the taste, making sure to swallow it down. I could feel the effects of the concoction fuse and spread through my mouth and throat, zipping through the nerves in my body. It was like eating fire. As I opened my eyes, however, I was no longer in the training grounds, but in a purple forest. I looked around, confused and lost as to what was going on as the trees swayed and shifted like apparitions. What was happening to me? I slowly stood and looked around, trying to take everything in. This was completely new, and I found myself became frightened. Where was I? My body began to shiver at the sound of the familiar voice. I turned my head to look and froze at the sight who was in space with me. Standing before me was the Demon Lord, mighty and terrifying as I imagined him to be up close. His face was dark and menacing as he gazed into my soul. His teeth were even more horrifying as he bared them at me animalistically. However, I could hear Sergeant's voice echo into space.
Your test stands before you, human. The one standing in the way from you going home is the fuckface known as the Demon Lord.
At the mere mention of his names, I became furious. This was the monster that kept me from going home. This was the bastard who wanted to hurt me and bring the boys back here. Most likely to punish them or force them to take the throne.
Now, beat him down!
I felt instant fury ignite within my core, making waves of rage and anger run through each vein of my body. My muscles tense and my fists were ready to fly at my opponent. The time had come to prove myself. The Demon Lord came swinging, arcing a large blade in my direction. I swiftly dodged and quickly began to assess the situation. He was armed, and he was as muscular as Sergeant, if not more. Another swing, another dodge. However, in this realm, I could barely make out the black aura around the Demon Lord's body. Most likely, the test was crafted not to allow me to see the weakness and energy of my opponent. Smart. I had to adjust and use my visible sight. There had to be something. His weapon was exceedingly perfect, and its grip seemed to be protected as well. I jumped away as the Demon Lord lunged at me, swinging his blade to slice me in half. He had a weapon. I did not. He was built. I was not. How was I going to do this? The situation slowly began to dawn on me, causing the fury in my body to lightly shudder in weakness. Was I even ready to do this? My mind began to flicker through images of my family, my friends, my fiancé. I was fighting for them. I was fighting for me, my freedom, my own need for revenge. I had to knock away any doubt in my mind and remind myself of why I was there. It was all because of him. I quickly ran at the Demon Lord, my vision becoming as red as blood. As the Demon Lord prepared a stance, I raised my leg and knocked it against his elbow, bending it into the opposite direction and forcing him to drop his weapon. With a hateful snarl, the Demon Lord raised a fist of his own and rammed it into my cheek, causing me to fly back and skid across the ground. Despite the pain, I quickly scrambled back onto my feet, eyeing him with a deadly glare. I had to win this. I felt my hands pulse, tensing and becoming solid as rock at my side. Blood dripped from my side of my mouth, but I didn't care. I was going to end this. With a final battle cry, I rushed forward and raised my fist behind me, ready to slam it into the Demon Lord's face. My fist was met with his, causing us both to deadlock fist to fist. Fire and electricity bounced between our hands as we pushed against each other. I snarled and let my rage fuel into each finger, forcing his hand back. I didn't want to lose. I wasn't going to lose. I was going to beat him down and win this fight. The Demon Lord's fist tried to push back, but failed as I pressed forward, knocking his face away from us and leaving him open. At last, I had let out an angry yell as I brought my arm back and slammed it into his face hard. I stared as his face seemed to mold over my fist at the impact before he rebounded off of it and fell to the floor. This illusion was much weaker than the real Demon Lord, but I didn't give a damn. This thing was going to feel the anger I had stored in my body. I jumped onto his chest, pinning his arms to his side with my knees, and began to pummel his face with my fists over and over. Soon enough, his face became unrecognizable and covered in blood. As it occurred, however, I barely noticed the world around me slowly change back to normal. It was only until the body below me turned into a training dummy that I had to let it sink in hard. What? The rage within my body quickly became extinguished as I stared at the broken straw and cloth beneath my body. Small scratches decorated my fist from the friction of the dummy, and I became lost as ever. I was fighting the Demon Lord. How did it become a dummy? At the sound of a slow applause, I turned my head to see Sergeant with a smirk on his face, clapping in an apparent job well done.
I gotta admit, I'm impressed. You're probably the first human to pass that test.
It took a moment to sink in. I was in the midst of a test and I had passed, just like that. I became extremely proud of myself, feeling utter joy rush through my body and causing me to jump up. Yeah, alright! Sergeant laughed as I put my fist in the air in pride.
Don't overwork yourself, or...
I barely heard him finish his sentence as I suddenly became dizzy and collapsed to the ground, immediately worn out.
What the hell did you do?
I was training her.
And that requires a means intervenire?
Are you judging my training methods?
I'm judging your common sense.
I could barely understand what was going on around me before I opened my eyes. Despite my vision being blurry, I could see Diana above me, feeling her knees beneath my head, and Sergeant on the other side, arms crossed. Diana's hand was petting through my hair, where I felt waves of light energy pass over my head and into the rest of my body. It felt calming and comforting after using so much rage energy, and I had to hold back a moan from escaping me. As my vision began to clear up, I could see Diana and Sergeant scowling at each other.
She is a human. That kind of mental exertion could have killed her.
She lived.
Barely.
I could barely open my mouth before Diana gently lowered my head to the ground and stood up, walking around my body and marching at Sergeant.
That was an unforgivably reckless choice. How am I supposed to trust you with an army if I can't trust you to take care of one human?
Watch it, Succubus. I trained our men well.
It doesn't mean anything if you don't have the sense to see the error of this choice.
Suddenly, Sergeant swung a fish toward Diana, only to be blocked by her forearm with insane reaction speed. Barely a second that passed as a dark purple flame engulfed Diana's free hand while ramming into Sergeant's stomach. Before my eyes, Sergeant was sent flying back and slammed into a tree, falling at its base. Diana, however, became engulfed with the black and purple flame as the scowl on her face contorted into one that I recognized from the human world.
How dare you attack me? I am the one who honored your people, and you have the gall to turn and strike at me. Where does your loyalty lie?
What the hell? What was happening?
You truly thought you could hurt me. I've been fighting the Demon Lord himself for over 10 years. You're nothing compared to him.
Sergeant looked up at Diana with a pained glare of his own as Diana turned and took a single step away from him.
I will overlook that act of treason this once, but know your place, brute.
As Diana's face turned away from Sergeant, I could see a look of change in Diana's eyes, going from pure arrogance to sudden realization and regret. However, she shut her eyes and let out a silent sigh as she took another step away from us. With that, Diana walked away, her flame-like aura completely gone from her body. Sergeant, however, didn't move his slippy watch as he entered the castle and vanished from sight. As she did, Sergeant let out a sigh. I slowly sat up, taking in what had happened. What was wrong with Diana? Why did she act like that? Why was Sergeant so on the offensive? I looked over at my trainer to see him slowly stand. As I did, I noticed a very heavily burnt mark where Diana had punched him. Are you okay?
I'll be fine.
I could tell that Diana had gotten under his skin. I was concerned as to why Diana acted the way she did, but as Sergeant stood and shook his head, he looked at me.
You all right?
I nodded, feeling much better than I had before. Diana's magic must have healed me from whatever the test effects were. I quickly stood up and grinned. So, what now? Sergeant took a moment to look at me, but I knew that I had to take his mind off of Diana to get him back in properly training. I wasn't mad at him about the test. He gave me a good punching bag. He let out a small laugh and uncrossed his arms.
You should have been born a demon. You've got the will to be one.
I couldn't help but feel flattered at the compliment. As I smiled, Sergeant walked over to the dummy I was beating on earlier and set it up.
You proved yourself by passing the test. Now, we'll take the time to master what skills you have.
I walked over and stood in front of the dummy, ready for his instructions. I was able to defend myself and fight. That was the goal of the entire process. I spent the rest of the day sparring the dummy, Danithier, and even Sergeant himself to sharpen my skills and make them better. I was completely exhausted by the time I was sent back to my room. I have to find my thingy. Okay. As I marched back toward my room, I was stopped by Sam. I stared at him as he leaned against the door to our room, as if he'd been waiting for me for a while.
Hey.
Hey. I knew this could only mean one thing. My test was waiting for me. I pressed my lips together, nervous, but knowing that I had to go through with it, regardless of how I felt. Diana's words began to flood back into my mind as I took Sam's hand and gave it a squeeze. Sam squeezed my hand back, nodding, and led me away from our bedroom toward the war room, where Diana was waiting for us. As Diana locked her sights on us, she led us aside and gestured to the table, where a large calligrament of items were placed and presented. Sam halted his stop, staring at the table in absolute shock. I, however, merely grew confused. On the table was an assortment of single flowers, each a different color and type. They were formed in a magic circle pattern, but there was no magic to be seen.
When did you...
Hush, this is for her.
Sam instantly shut his mouth, and I looked at Sam in confusion. He knew what this was? I turned to Diana, completely lost.
Dear, do you know what I've prepared here?
Sam doesn't look happy, Diana. I stared at the table, unsure of how to discern it. A couple of ideas came to mind, but I didn't want to be wrong if this was part of the test. Sam knew what it was, too, given by the strong reaction from him. Could it have been a demon marriage ritual? That was it. It had to have been. Why else would Sam react so strangely? It had been on his mind, and now it was staring me dead in the face. Diana nodded, gesturing to the flowers.
This is a marriage ritual. Freshly blossomed flowers, holding peak-worthy magical essence, arranged in a magic circle, are part of what a binding ritual needs to happen.
Part? Diana nodded and looked to the table.
The other part is a precious item forged between two souls to bind them together.
I couldn't believe it. This was my test. There was no way I was ready for this, but here I was, staring at the setup that just screamed, go through with it. Part of me was angry and aggravated. I had to go through this for some stupid dragon power? This was something Sam and I were supposed to discuss together. Now it felt like an arranged agreement. What was I going to do? This just was obviously going to make me go through with this for the sake of Sam, but I still wasn't ready. Soul binding seemed very heavy, and as much as I loved Sam, I needed to be 100% clear. Sam stepped forward and glared at Diana.
We're not doing this.
Pardon?
You heard me. We're not going through with this.
I stared at Sam wide-eyed. What? He didn't want to go through with it anymore? What was going on? I remember clearly that he wanted to do it. Now he was against it? Sam looked at me, and I could suddenly see the reason why buried in his eyes. He still wanted to, but not like this. I could tell he was throwing away something he desperately wanted for my own sake. Sam turned and grasped my shoulder, staring into my eyes.
I know that I want to do this. I want to do this more than anything. But you are more important to me than some dumb ritual. I will never let you force yourself to make this decision if you're nowhere near ready.
I felt like crying. This was exactly why I loved him. This was one of a million reasons why Sam was so important to me. My heart felt at ease, looking into his eyes and letting rogue tears stroll down my cheeks. It may have seemed like a simple thing, but to me this was important. I gently caressed Sam's cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath my hand, and thinking every deity I knew that I had him beside me as mine. However, as Diana cleared her throat, we both turned to her in reaction. What really threw us off was seeing her cover her mouth, hiding some sort of smirk that was peeking out between her fingers.
Who said anything about you going through with it?
Sam and I became dumbfounded. What? We didn't have to go through with it? Then why was it set up?
For fuck's sake, if you're messing with us...
Diana began to laugh hysterically, causing Sam to stop talking and become dumbfounded once again. What the hell was going on?
I knew it! I knew it!
What the fuck, Diana?
I was beyond lost. As Diana continued to laugh, she curled over her stomach and covered her face, trying to catch her breath.
This was perfect. This was absolutely perfect.
Diana! Now I became frustrated. What was so funny about this? Diana finally stopped laughing, wiping her eyes from the tears that had formed from laughing so hard, and grinned at me and Sam.
I didn't set this up to make you two do it. That would ruin the point of the test.
Then what was the test? I became flustered, now mentally scrambling as to what was going on. As my body suddenly began to sink into the ground, however, I gasped and looked down, seeing a large purple pentagram pulling me and Sam into the fork.
Whoa!
What?
Demon marriage lets you know where your soul partner is at all times. The test is that you find your husband without it.
He's not my husband yet! That's a little contradictory right there, but points there. I couldn't even fight back as I was engulfed by the darkness at last. I couldn't tell how long I was trapped in that darkness. All I knew was that I was going to wake up and find Sam. As I opened my eyes, I had to adjust the bright light around me and the sound of nature in my ears. I rubbed my eyes and found myself in a forest, laying underneath a large tree with burn marks across its bark. I could tell that this would be my starting place and my marker if I got lost. So while I felt terrible for the tree, I was thankful to have something to visually reference. So, this was my test? I had to find the man I loved without anything but my heart and my instinct. That was cheesy as hell, expecting someone to find someone else using the power of love. I loved Sam deeply, but I didn't know if it would be strong enough to guide me through a terrain I was unaware of to Sam, who could have been wandering around looking for me. There are so many variables to consider. Still, this was a test for a reason. I had to figure this out. I cut my hands together and shouted, knowing his name would be a way to bring him to me. Amaris! The nearby birds fluttered around me wildly into the air at the surprise of my shout, but Sam didn't appear. What the hell? That was supposed to have worked. Something must have had him under holy magic or something to negate the demon summoning. Another part of the test. Guess I wasn't allowed to cheat. It was worth a try. Calm down. She would calm down. Just like she has faith in Sam, and she needs to just follow. I had to be methodical about this. There's no use in panicking over the situation. The forest couldn't be that big, could it? I shook my head. Nope. I had to find him if there's nothing I do. This was the only way to get the dragon's power, as difficult and unnecessary as it was. I took a deep breath and looked around, trying to decide where to start. I started heading to the left of the tree's burnt marks. It was better than no direction at all, and it was a start. Each step I took became one filled with haste. I wanted to find Sam soon, and I didn't want to laze about it. It felt like hours went by until I stopped and looked around, exhausted from walking so far at such a fast pace. I leaned against a nearby tree, catching my breath. How in the hell am I going to find him? Something in my heart began to feel heavy. What if I wasn't able to find him? What if this was an impossible quest? I felt my body slide down the side of the tree, making me sit down at the base in fear. This couldn't be. Sadness and ache began to sink into my thoughts. There's no way to track him, no way to find him at all in this place. I'd be searching forever, only hoping that I would find him and pray he was alive when I did. My hands combed through my hair as I fought back tears. Please let me wake up that this is a dream. Please let me see him again.
Giving up so soon, my dear?
At Diana's voice, I suddenly gasped and looked around, but only to find no one around. I quickly stood and scanned the area, but alas, there were only trees around. Diana, I don't know what to do. How can I find him?
You have all of the means to find him. You're just not thinking it through.
I looked into the air, confused as ever. What did she mean? I didn't have anything but the clothes I was wearing. Diana chuckled slightly.
Think. Besides his heart, what else did he give you as a token of his love?
As she said it, the answer came into my mind, replaying the night Sam proposed to me in the night sky. I looked at my hand, seeing the engagement ring Sam had given to me resting on my finger, glistening in the light.
There we are. The other part of the marriage ritual.
The second part, this was...
Indeed. It seems he intended to ask you to be his in body, heart, and spirit.
My heart gave a hard and heated thump against my chest, agreeing with Diana's words. He had been prepared all along to ask me to be his, but wanted to at least give me what I wanted first before asking what he wanted. Oh, I gotta end it here because it's getting so awesome. But, yeah. I will see you all in the next episode. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye!